hope you're all doing well and having a great Monday so far. Today's main topic is going to be severe weather. And first, we're going to be starting out with the day one outlook today for Monday. And so we have a decent sized area of severe weather across portions of the central and north central U.S. today. And so we do have an enhanced risk up here into portions of South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, and Kansas. And so the main threat today will be the wind risk across these areas, but we will have a tornado risk, just a little bit of a tornado risk with these storms, along with a hail risk for today. And going back to our day one outlook, we have a pretty large marginal risk that extends all the way into portions of the mid-south, into the Ohio Valley and northeast. Then looking at our day two outlook for Tuesday, so we have two slight risk, one into the mid-Atlantic and then one into Oklahoma and Kansas, with two marginal risk around that. And so if you look at our tornado risk for tomorrow, we do not have a tornado risk, but if we look at our wind risk, we do have a wind risk for tomorrow on Tuesday. And then finally, we do have a little bit of a hail risk into portions of the Central U.S. once again for tomorrow on Tuesday. Then looking at Wednesday, we have two marginal risk, one into portions of the mid-Atlantic and southeast, and then one up into the north central U.S. once again for Wednesday. And then after that, if we look at our day four outlook here, we already have a level 2 out of 5 slight risk here into the north central U.S. And this will be for Thursday. We'll get to this later on into the video. So taking a look at today's threat across the north central U.S. And so we could already have some storms beginning to form, maybe into potentially the Dakotas and maybe Minnesota as well. But as you get later into the day, storm coverage should increase a little bit more just throughout the Dakotas and Minnesota, even into Nebraska and Kansas a little bit. And then as you get later on into this evening and night, you'll have those storms slowly kind of sagging to the south, and that will continue into the kind of overnight hours, maybe a little bit of a cluster of storms into Nebraska, Iowa, maybe Missouri, late tonight into early tomorrow on Tuesday. But most of those storms should try to diminish by the late evening to early overnight hours tonight into tomorrow on Tuesday. And then looking further to the east into portions of the mid-Atlantic and northeast, you're going to have your typical kind of summertime thunderstorms really across much of the eastern U.S. But still, you'll have the remnants of Chantal kind of dwindling, not dwindling, but slowly making its way kind of into the northeast, just the energy off of this system. So you could see some isolated flooding maybe into southern New England or portions of the northeast today on Monday, but nothing too crazy, because that energy should eventually move out by maybe late tonight into early tomorrow on Tuesday. But early by tomorrow, we'll have nothing left of Chantal to really talk about. Then as we get into Tuesday, once again, we have those two slight risks, one into Oklahoma, then one into the mid-Atlantic. And really by about, I would say, maybe about lunchtime tomorrow, maybe 12 o'clock Central Daylight Time, or 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time, you could see some storms beginning to form out here into maybe Oklahoma, Arkansas, if not earlier. And then as you get into the mid-Atlantic, I would say by about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, you could see some storms beginning to form here. And once again, those will be capable of damaging winds. And then into the central U.S., same story there, along with damaging winds and a hail risk, but no tornado risk is expected at this time. And then as we get into tomorrow evening, could see some storms beginning to sag kind of into Virginia, maybe Maryland, into maybe North Carolina as well. And then out here into the central U.S., some storms lingering into New Mexico and Texas as you get into tomorrow night, and maybe even early on Wednesday. Now taking a look at Wednesday, and so you're going to have plenty of instability into the north central U.S. and into actually quite a bit of the really southern U.S., the South as a whole, but mainly into the mid-Atlantic and portions of the Southeast for Wednesday once again. And so up here into the north central U.S., that instability will lead to a pretty decent chance of maybe large hail across those areas, especially with some good lapse rates that will contribute to the larger hail chance in those areas, along with this instability, surface-based instability. And so that won't be the case really as you get into the southeast and mid-Atlantic for Wednesday. You'll mostly see a damaging wind threat with that, but still you could see some hail is there as well, just not very large hail. That is. So as you get into Wednesday evening, you can see all that instability spike into those areas, and then into the mid-Atlantic and southeast. Those storms eat away at the instability, and you really don't have much left by the evening hours. And continuing that on into Wednesday night, all that instability pretty much goes away, really except into the north central U.S., where we'll still probably have some storms ongoing by that time on Wednesday. So we'll have to continue to watch that. And if we look at our dew points here, you can see we have plenty of moisture into these areas, really across the eastern U.S. as a whole. Dew points into the upper 60s and lower 70s into the north central U.S. and into the 70s into the southeast and mid-Atlantic for Wednesday. And the reason I'm not looking at some of our other models that show our convection, our storms, is because we don't have really any models that go to that range quite yet. And we do have the NAM model that goes to that range where we can see some of those storms, but still we're a few days out from this, so it's not really my favorite thing to look at that, just because it can be a little bit inaccurate for that time range. So that's why we're just looking at the GFS for right now. But once again, plenty of instability across these areas, and you'll have a damaging wind threat across the mid-Atlantic and southeast, and once again a damaging wind threat across the north central U.S., along with a hail risk there for Wednesday. Finally, looking at Thursday for the north central U.S., and so we're going to have some mid-level troughs start to move into these areas, and so that will allow for these storms to get going and develop. And so the main threat will be hail and damaging winds, but we cannot rule out a low wind tornado threat for Thursday across these areas. So if you can see here at the 500 millibar level, you can see our vorticity, and basically this is kind of just our energy for these storms that allow them to kind of develop and get going. But if you look at surface-based CAPE, and this is our instability, and so we're going to have plenty of instability into these areas, and that will help these storms strengthen and become severe eventually. And then finally, if we look at our dew points across these areas, you have rich moisture into these areas. Dew points even into the low 70s up into these areas will help with those storms and help to strengthen them even further. So we'll have to watch that for Thursday and Thursday evening into even early on Friday across those areas with those troughs kind of moving into those areas. And so if we get out of that and look at the U.S. as a whole, you can see all that moisture up there. And even on Friday again, we probably will have another threat there, maybe a little bit more low-end threat, but looking into the central U.S., you'll have probably another threat because of all the instability there, and you'll have your energy into the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And then you can see a pretty potent trough actually there moving into the area by late this weekend to early this weekend, and that will probably bring a severe weather threat into some of those areas. And we'll have to continue to watch these threats, but the Storm Prediction Center has not issued any more risk beyond day 4 on Thursday. So once again, we'll have to continue to watch these threats and see how they play out over the next several days. Finally, ending the video with our Climate Prediction Center temperature outlook here. And so we'll go back to the 6 to 10 day outlook, but most of the U.S. is going to see above average temperatures for the next 6 to 10 days, especially into the southwestern U.S., even into the northeast. portions of the deep south, but quite a bit of the western U.S. will see above average temperatures for the next 6 to 10 days. And then as you get into the next 8 to 14 days, you could see once again above average temperatures into the western U.S., especially into Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, and then even into Maine, Vermont, into New York State, upstate New York, pretty much as well, and then across quite a bit of the really northern half of the U.S. And then for the 3 to 4 week outlook, the Climate Prediction Center wants to show well above average temperatures into the northeastern U.S., mid-Atlantic, and into portions of the northwestern U.S. for once again the 3 to 4 week range. So we'll continue to watch that, but above average temperatures are here to stay for a good bit of time, especially for probably the rest of July for quite a bit of the country. But that'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a great week.